Cavalier Daily, but please, if you want to submit a question to the candidates during the audience submitted questions portion, please go to the Cavalier Daily's Instagram, click the link in our bio, and ask any questions you want. The questions will be asked to both candidates, not just one, so just keep that in mind when you're submitting questions. I'll give you 1 to 2 minutes to think about any questions you may have and give you a chance to pull that up. So thank you. We'll start shortly.
Interesting. Nice little voice.
Yeah, it's quite strange. Oh yeah, no problem. Yeah, it looked like a cool event. I was just gonna be here playing.
It is like really sucky that it's the day before spring.
But I think you have to do it on
Yeah.
right.
Right after the border. It's gonna be a little bit.
Yeah, it's a great vibe.
A little controversial. I think a lot of them are coming, so. Yeah.
Hello everyone, and welcome to the Student Council Presidential Candidate Debate hosted by the Cavalier Daily and the University Board of Elections. I'm going to pass it off to Zach first for a quick introduction.
Thank you, Haley, for the introduction, and obviously thank you all for coming here in person, and for those who are also watching live stream online. Like Haley said, my name is Zach Lederer. I'm the chair of the University Board of Elections, and I don't want to take too much time away from the candidates. Obviously, the main focus tonight, but I like to think of this race as kind of the key race in this election, because this is the only position, this VPA, VPO, that is voted on by the entire student body, by grad students, by first years, everyone. And that means that these two candidates, whoever wins, is going to have a broad mandate on who they're supposed to represent. But ultimately, the policies that they enact and all the other candidates in these elections are determined by you all, who actually go out and vote. So tomorrow morning, you'll receive an email with the ballot link, so make sure you go out and vote, March 3rd through March 5th. And of course, if you have any other questions about voting or the election, you can email ub@ub-admin@virginia.edu. Or if you have any inquiries about rules or any rules complaints, email ub-rules@virginia.edu. And I'll toss over to Naima with introduction about the debate.
Okay, hello everyone. Thank you, Zach. My name is Naima Sawaya, and I'm the editor-in-chief of the Cavalier Daily. This was a tradition that was started about 7 years ago by one of the editors-in-chiefs named Tim Dodson, and now it's something that we as the Cavalier Daily look forward to each year. Well, of course, our beat writers try to do their best covering the tickets of each of the candidates. This is a really unique opportunity for the two candidates to engage face-to-face and to have their platforms directly available to students. So it's something we look forward to a lot. Before I pass it off to our moderators, I would just like to encourage you all to submit questions. As Haley said, the debate will begin with 2 opening statements from the candidates, and then there will be questions asked by our 2 stud co-beat writers, Lauren Siegler, and Vaishnavi Tata, and Haley Chung, our managing editor. But if you have any questions you'd like to submit, please fill out the QR code in our Instagram bio, and we will be reviewing them throughout the debate. Not all questions will be asked, but we highly encourage you to submit them. And with that, I'll pass it off to our moderators. Thank you all for coming, and thank you to UB for helping us organize this.
So, my name is Haley Chung again. I'm a third year and the managing editor of the Cavalier Daily. Vaishnavi, Lauren, and I are all a part of the objective side of the paper and are not affiliated or in communication with the Cavalier Daily subjective editorial board that interviewed the candidates. Candidates, as a reminder, everything you say during this event is on record and can be factored into the Cavalier Daily's endorsement decision. And I'll let my co-moderators introduce themselves.
Hey everyone, I'm Vaishnavi Tata. I'm a third-year news writer at the Cavalier Daily, and I was the stud co-beat writer last semester.
And I'm Lauren Siegler. I'm a second-year news writer and the stud co-beat writer for this coming semester.
Okay, we're really about to start. But first I wanted to give a quick notice about the structure of the debate. We will begin with 3-minute opening statements, then questions formulated by the Cavalier Daily, and we'll end with audience-submitted questions. We ask that you keep your answers as concise as possible, and you can speak for 2 minutes per question. Each candidate gets 5 chances to respond to another candidate's response to a question for 1 minute, but they do not have to use all 5 chances. So we will begin opening statements. Jada, you will begin, and you will have 3 minutes. Vaishnavi will raise her hand when you have 30 seconds remaining for each portion of the debate. So Jada, whenever you're ready, you can begin.
Good evening, everyone, and thank you to the Cavalier Daily for hosting this presidential debate. My name is Jada Benefield. I go by she, her pronouns, and I'm honored to be here tonight. I'm a policy scholar from Houston, Texas, a third-year student majoring in government with a concentration in American politics and minoring in African American studies. I'm running to be your next student council president because I believe in the power of student advocacy and the need for leadership that truly listens and takes action. I'm no stranger to lobbying, policy making, or advocating for real, tangible change. As the current student council chief of cabinet, I have had the privilege of managing our largest branch, one directly responsible for crafting policy and leading advocacy efforts. But tonight, I don't want to just list my accomplishments. You can find all that information in the documents I've already published. Instead, I want to speak from the heart about why I'm so deeply passionate about this work and the policies I'm fighting for as a presidential candidate. Like all of you, my time at UVA has shaped me. And if there's one thing I believe without a doubt, it's that every student deserves a fair chance to succeed at this university. But opportunity is not just about access to resources. It's about having a community that sees you, supports you, and advocates for you. I realized this early on in my time on grounds, and it has shaped how I approach every issue I take on. Throughout this campaign, I've said this time and time again, I'm grounded in community work and in community partnerships, but I'm driven by accessibility. This is not just a phrase, it is a guiding principle. It means listening to students, understanding their challenges, and committing to policies that make UVA more inclusive, more transparent, and more responsible to the needs of students. But I also recognize that many students hear the phrase student self-governance and assume that they are not a part of it if they aren't in honor, UJC, or student council. That couldn't be further from the truth. Student self-governance belongs to all of us. CIOs and student organizations are the foundation of the culture and community we experience on grounds. They create spaces where students feel seen, supported, and challenged to grow. Student council is not just here to govern, it is here to serve those students, those organizations, and the entire UVA community. There's an African proverb that says, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. UVA, I believe in a future built on collective action, a future where we work together to build a university that truly supports all students. In other words, I believe in the ACE vision, where student voices are amplified, issues are addressed collectively, and needs are met efficiently. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Clay, we will now move on to your opening statement. Whenever you begin speaking, we will start the clock.
All right, is it okay if I stand up? I just think better when I stand.
Sure.
All right, hello, my name is Clay Dickerson. I'm a 30 student from Lubbock, Texas, both from Texas, isn't that crazy? Where are the Virginians at, right? But I'm studying history and drama, bringing a unique perspective to the roles I've fulfilled the last few years. And the first thing I want to do for all of you is to pose a question, and that is, what is student self-governance as it pertains to you and your experience at UVA? I ask this because, as Jada said, student self-governance belongs to everybody, but I hesitate to believe that everyone can utilize it. Me being I'm not first gen, I'm limited income. I've led first gen limited income students my entire time at UVA. I'm only at this university because of the financial aid I've received. And as a result, being a limited income student, very limited income, I know what needs to be done to support, uplift, and empower my community. This being said, what student self-governance means to me is making the change you wish to see, right? As limited as that change possibly is, because we can only do what we can. This role is only a year long if I'm able to achieve the same with the role that I previously held as Chief of Support and Admin Services. Same as the one Jada held as Chief of Admin, it's only a year long. But the reality is, with that time being so strict, so limited, we have to act fast. My experience leading FGLI students is that these people can't wait for a long-term initiative, for recycled policies. They can change now. For example, one of my best friends, who can't utilize student self-governance even though it belongs to him, right now he's working a double downtown. As all of you know, most of our orgs meet on Sundays, and he works on Sundays. This is a reality for too many people at the university. How are they supposed to speak for themselves when they quite literally can't be in the room? They aren't here now, they aren't in the CIO meetings on Sundays. How do they advocate for themselves? As someone fortunate enough to be in this position, that's why I'm running. FGLI students are everywhere. They're in the Cavalier Daily, they're in student council, they're in Flip, Swap, any acronym you can name that's an org, we're there. And we're quiet because we don't tell you that we are first gen limited income and or. But because of our experiences, we are powerful. And with effective, knowledgeable, and capable leadership, for me, Princess Michael, I believe a brighter tomorrow for FGLI students is possible. The reason why this is important is because we are everywhere. It's a common thing. If you're in a team, in an organization, you're only as strong as your weakest link. And sometimes this weakest link can't control what's bringing them down. By being able to empower these individuals to lead the lives they want to, every single person in this room will benefit. Because we as a university aren't just a community, we are a team fighting for this great and good place that we love. And that's all I'll give you for now.
Great, thank you. Thank you. We'll now move on to questions prepared by the Cavalier Daily. As a reminder, you'll get 2 minutes to speak, and you'll switch off who responds to each question first. Clay, you will start, followed by Jada. Vaishnavi will again raise her hand when you have 30 seconds remaining. The first question. Please specify the 3 issues that are most important to you. Out of those 3, which is your biggest priority and why?
All right, I'm standing up again, don't hand me, I'm sorry. I'm a big guy, but I still can't see everybody sitting down, so. I would say the 3 biggest issues, I will put it in the 3 words that I've been emphasizing this entire campaign. Equity, unity, and then to empower. Like I was saying, there's students at UVA who don't, I love pizza. There are students at UVA who don't have the equity they need to live the lives they deserve at this university. And therefore, they aren't a part of the unity that we wish to say we have. They aren't in this room. They aren't able to participate in the student self-governance they deserve, and then they cannot empower themselves. And so, my answer to that is these 3 issues, equity, unity, and then the need to empower are my 3 most important things. How much time do I have? So I'll give you a little bit more. 1 minute, that's great. My favorite thing from equity that I plan on doing is forming Cavalier Care. Essentially what this is an overarching support agency within the Support and Access Services branch that will compile pre-existing support agencies and services in a way that makes them more efficient, allows for more money to be funneled into them, and more individuals to be supported. Things that will be included in this are the Next Steps Fund, allowing for additional CAP sessions, accommodation access fund, disability accommodations, STI testing for individuals on grounds, and then dental insurance, a fund for this, working alongside Amanda and John Cheslak, the Student Health and Wellness, who's already added this. That's one initiative. Next, I want to get a student member of the Board of Visitors elected. So often you want to say that this person deserves a vote, but how are they to deserve a vote if they aren't even democratically chosen? And that's what I believe. This term is not going to go away from only being a year long. What we can do, working alongside individuals who have been piloting it or who have been seeking this effort in the past, such as Walt Heineke in Ed School, a professor who's been putting in great work. Working alongside these individuals and existing efforts, we can and will get this member elected as opposed to appointed. Last thing, you come down. I want to expand upon a pilot program I put through called a business closet. And make everyone look as good as I'm looking right now. This is my promise to you, by the way.
Thank you. Jada, whenever you're ready.
Okay, so sorry, I just need to clarify the rules. So when I have to respond to something that they said, so I just raise my hand.
Yes, you can raise your hand.
Okay, but I can answer do the question now and then respond to them. How's that word? Okay, yeah, sounds good. Okay, so the 3 things that I really care about and what I would like to address if I were elected student council president is strengthening transparency and financial aid. So as an FGLI student, just like Clay, I understand the barriers that comes with knowing that, hey, my attendance at this university depends on scholarship and financial resources. I understand that, and I understand that change needs to be made. And I'm not just here going to talk about ideals or say buzzwords that, people want to hear. I want to talk about real change and real plans. So first, actually building a relationship, a stronger relationship with student financial services to address this and be able to give students an opportunity to give feedback on their experiences waiting for their financial aid. For a lot of students, there's the fear of the unknown coming into the school year, every single year wondering, when am I going to get my financial aid? Will I actually be able to afford attending university this year? How many jobs do I need to work to be able to afford just living and the cost of living, and especially in a community like Charlottesville that has rising cost of living? So I want to build a relationship with student financial services. I've had the privilege to do that within Chief of Cabinet and advocating for more financial transparency, but building on that work and building on those relationships. Because as I mentioned, nothing can get done without community partnerships. And lobbying is not something that's done alone. It's done with the foundation of actually reaching out and building those relationships. And another thing I want to address is the political climate, in the terms that students who are at risk, legally at risk, are also living with the fear of the unknown every single day. And I would like to promote a legal assistance fund so they can actually address these concerns and feel supported as they continue to seek higher education just like the rest of us.
All right, thank you. That's the end of that first question. And just for a reminder for the audience and candidates, if you would like to respond to a candidate's response, please raise your hand during the question that they're answering. Lauren will make a note of that, so if you make eye contact with her, we'll take note of that, and then we'll give you a minute to respond. Going into the second question, Jada, you will start this one. What is one recent initiative that to you has reflected the impact of the student council on the student body?
Yeah, one initiative that has really, I think, reflects just what I envision for the future of student council is the lobbying for free menstrual products in dorms. So I think this is an impactful initiative that has happened in student council, just like many impactful initiatives that exist currently within student council. But I like to cite this one specifically because of how it was done and how it was lobbied for. So first, it was, once again, building relationships and reaching out to UVA departments, taking those steps, outlining a plan of like, this is what we want done, collecting student insight and student survey responses to actually have proof and evidence that this is a need and a demand for a certain resource. Reaching out to HRL, reaching out to RAs, saying, this is, if you are willing to collaborate with us on this is what we can get done together. And through this, these lobbying efforts, through this relationship building, for the first time ever, we got approved to do a pilot program for free menstrual products in dorms. Something that students have been asking for years. First year students coming to dorms realizing this is an issue and not even knowing who to reach out to. But through these types of relationships building, through this type of lobbying and actually having a plan to execute, we were able to get this approval, and I look forward to the future of student council, where we don't just go based on ideas, we have plans and we execute them, and we build those relationships, and we have relationships with departments who are able to say, yes, I see the passion, I see the proof of this demand, and actually make things happen, get things done.
All right, thank you. Clay, whenever you're ready.
Yeah, ask the question one more time if you don't mind. I'm sorry.
Sure, yeah. What is one recent initiative that to you has reflected the impact of the student council on the student body?
Yeah, so this is actually my favorite initiative. I love it with my whole heart and soul. And what I'll say is a mutual aid free store. What this is in the bottom of the Student Activity Center. If you walk down towards the end to the left, we have a wall. It's a wall of shelves, and every 2 weeks we've been restocking this with items that FGLI students, community members, that they need. Personal care products, menstrual products. We've been having this. We have it for a couple years now, and our infrastructurally this has expanded. We've grown it this year. In my opinion, the most beautiful thing about this that I personally love is seeing this change, seeing the impact being made in person. I'll be sitting in the SAC and I will watch people go in the free store, take what they need, and it's just so heartwarming to know that we are able to do that. To quite literally affect one person at a time, get them the shampoo they want, not the shampoo that they can afford. To get them the period products that they can hold on to for a long time and not just... Well, what I'm trying to say is, we bring dignity to the FGLI experience. We bring respect. And as an FGLI student, I've had to share things my entire life. Me and my sister shared shampoo. We bought great value deodorant. I mean, really was scraping the bottom of the barrel because it's all we could afford. What the mutual aid free store does is it helps students not have to live this reality. They can get what they need in a way that doesn't inhibit their path towards equity, towards unity, towards empowerment. I think the beauty of this, and as it pertains to the broader mission of Student Council, is that it is tangible, it is active, it is growing. And I only see a future where this initiative and others like it are bright. Thank you.
Thank you. Jada, did you want to respond to that?
Yes.
Great. You have 1 minute starting now.
Perfect. So, as Clay just mentioned about the mutual aid free store and the amazing resources that Student Council offers, I completely agree. And as we both mentioned, both coming from low-income backgrounds, these resources are important, and I would like to expand upon them. Though I would like to mention, as Clay has once again mentioned, that our challenge began in March. The important work that we did and have continued began last March. And I would like to mention, as Clay leading the support and access service branch, our a calendar for students to actually know when these products were going to be restocked was not even completed until halfway through fall semester. That's unacceptable, and students actually rely on these resources, and we care so much and so passionate about providing resources to students. This is something that could have been done and planned for over the summer. And that's why it's my mission and a commitment to plan and organize for students to continue to have resources that they need.
Thank you, Claire. Would you like to respond?
Yeah, what I'll say to that is when I came into SAS, Mutually Free Store, that as an initiative was in shambles. We were at about a 20% utilization rate. Restocks weren't even happening. So the first thing that I had to do was make it infrastructurally sound. I established a Instacart, like a share system, so we could make the process for placing orders more efficient. And from this point, once we got in a bi-weekly restock process, then I implemented the calendar. Then, once I could predict when restocks were occurring, I made it public. This wasn't something I waited on. This wasn't something I took as long as I possibly could to implement. It was something that I quite literally had to wait to do. And I will say it has been effective. Students have been utilizing this calendar, and it isn't just for the free stores, for every single service in SAS. We have all of our dates on here, all of our restocks, our funding rounds. And that's all I'll say to that. So, thanks.
Thank you. This question is for Clay. This past semester, the student council's budget was reduced by almost 50%, with the concern about low utilization rates. How will you ensure that all student council branches are fully utilizing their allocated budgets?
Yeah. Right, like good. What I'll say to this is we have an existing branch, committee, and or branch called the Board of Audit and Management. What they do and what they can do is they can oversee our spending and then audit it, like the name says. What has happened this year was there wasn't a spending report until February 1st. You're telling me we were in these positions, like Jada said, since March. There wasn't a spending report from March until February. That's almost a year. By utilizing the Board of Audit Management, working alongside Michael as VPO, I plan to implement monthly spending reports to hold people accountable, to ensure this money is being spent. And if it's not, I'm going to do something I like to call, and we like to call use it or reuse it. This money shouldn't sit in a budget for months. It should be moved where it's needed the most, to initiatives like the Textbook Access Office and the Support and Access Services branch that has maxed out its budget. It needs money, and it can have money through this initiative. We can get the money it needs from other places in student council where it's not being used and shift it over. Furthermore, this money belongs to CIOs. This money belongs to organizations who need it the most. We had 50 applications a few weeks ago. We're nearing 900 CIOs. You're telling me that we're going to hoard money that we can't even use? Money that won't be moved into the hands of our initiatives that need the most will then be pushed to CIOs who need it more. We're constantly having to deny funding requests because we can't give them what they need. And through this policy, use it or reuse it, I will ensure that our money, the money that we are or aren't using, is being efficiently utilized. Thank you.
Jada?
Yes, can you repeat the question? I just want to make sure I answer it.
Sure. So this past semester, the student council's budget was reduced by almost 50% with a concern about low utilization rates. How will you ensure that all student council branches are fully utilizing their allocated budgets?
Yeah, so I think that's a really good question, and I'm really glad that I was a part of the administration that took this necessary steps to make sure that we're using students' money financially responsibly. When I entered my current role as chief of cabinet, I handled this and addressed this like heads on. Jumped into my role and I created a form and a new, I guess you would say, it's check and balance. So when our directors are wanting to start a new project and it requires money or funding, it would be a breakdown. It would require them to submit a breakdown of these costs and how much it would cost to actually fund these initiatives. So this is just a first planning step of, hey, before you actually even want to use money that is coming from SAF funds, make sure that it's actually going to be utilized correctly, responsibly, and that it will have a positive impact on the student population. So I implemented this as chief of cabinet. I would like to implement this across all the branches to ensure that if you are to spend money, there's actually going to be a positive change and you're not wasting it. And also, I'm really glad to be running alongside amazing candidates such as Lily and Jay. And Jay mentions in his policy that money should be reallocated to CIOs, and the importance of, as I mentioned in my opening statement, CIOs do such amazing and important and meaningful work, and making sure that if there's any money that is not being spent, actually be allocated it early on, so CIOs have the money to do their important work of building culture and community on grounds. So I have first a step that I'd like to be implemented across all branches, but also working with the VPO to make sure that all funds will be allocated responsibly.
Thank you. Clay, would you like to respond?
Yeah, first I want to say it's kind of funny because I'm not really disagreeing. We agree on a lot of things, so it's funny to see in the debate. But I just wanted to say something there's we both said, we do agree, is institutionalizing data reports. This year, the Support and Access Services branch had put on its first ever, as far as I'm aware, the first recent data collection initiative within Student Council, and what we were able to do was compile a pages-long data report that we presented to President Ryan, proving why Student Council needs more funding. We were able to get $500,000 in this effort. The importance of this isn't always fundraising, it isn't necessarily fundraising, but it is to establish a tradition of data collection that enforces our spending, supports it, and gives us reason to keep doing what we're doing. So alongside utilizing the Board of Audit Management to enact monthly spending reports, I will be establishing a tradition of data collection that supports Student Council long-term and sets us up for success, as we have been able to do now. So,
Thank you. This next question is for Jada. So the current Student Council has implemented the Capital Campaign, which seeks to get Student Council to reach fiscal self-sufficiency. Do you believe Student Council should work towards this goal? If so, how do you plan on doing it?
Yes, I absolutely think it's important for us to continue our fundraising efforts. I did sit on the interim endowment committee that was created by the current administration. And the goal of this committee and this fundraising campaign is to raise $5.6 million for an endowment that will allow us to sustain the important resources that we provide through Student Council that are really important that students rely on. So in order to build on the important steps that we've already taken, I would like to create real sponsorship strategies. Jay, one of the people that I'm running with, has actually worked on this and actually implementing sponsorship strategies for us to address how to build upon the efforts that we've already taken. Building relationships with the Alumni Association will be critical to continue these efforts and build upon these fundraising efforts so we can have strategic outreach to alum who are interested in donating to important causes and continuing to show them that the resources that Student Council offers by students and for students are important. And I plan to do this through having sponsorship strategies and different sponsorship levels so alum are aware of where their money's going and the impact they're having on it.
Thank you. Okay.
can you repeat the question one more time?
Sure. The current Student Council has implemented the Capital Campaign, which seeks to get Student Council to reach fiscal self-sufficiency. Do you believe Student Council should work towards this goal? If so, how do you plan on doing it?
Yeah. I think Student Council should. I think we will. I think that's something that's going to happen regardless of who wins. I also was on the interim endowment committee. What I did was I led this fundraising charge for the SAS, the President's Office funding that we did receive, $500,000 over 2 years. The importance of this money, the importance of the Capital Campaign, the importance of pursuing future fundraising is so that branches like SAS can exist. What we do is new. We're new as of 2021. It's not like this is a historic venture that is founded within financial ability. Like the money hasn't been there, but now it is, and the proof's in the pudding, you know. I don't know if you'll ever heard that saying. But we collected the data to prove the SAS branch is worth it and that what we're doing is worthwhile. By continuing to collect data, by developing these institutional reports for each branch, you best believe I'll be pushing my again princess to collect data for themselves, even if it looks bad. But the whole point of this is to prove that Student Council as a whole is doing what we need to do. Because if you're a donor, let's say you're a 50-year-old, very handsome fella or a very beautiful person, I don't know, and you want to donate, how are you supposed to believe our plea for funding if you don't have a reason, if you don't have the numbers to back up our ask? And so by continuing to collect data, by establishing stronger connection with alumni, we will be able to do this, achieving self-sufficiency and growing our initiatives as a whole.
Yes, it sounds like both me and Clay agree the importance of continuing the fundraising campaign. I think, like as you mentioned, there's important resources that Student Council offers and we need to show that to alum. However, I think the important part of how we will actually do this, I addressed through our sponsorship strategies and actually implementing something that Jay has worked so hard to actually use to make sure that we approve upon these efforts. Money's not going to come from anywhere. We actually have to get in contact with alum. What does that mean? Actually continue to build relationships with the Alumni Association. Data-driven advocacy, something that both Cabinet and SAS has done this year, continuing those efforts. But for the first step is actually having a list of donors that would be willing to donate money. So instead of speaking realistically, the first step that I'll be focused on if elected will be actually having a list of donors who would be interested in contributing towards this campaign.
How do you want to respond?
Yeah. I guess I'm just curious, being a part of the IEC with you, didn't we already try to do this? Didn't we already compile a list of alumni who could and we thought would donate? I'm just curious because this effort, as we attempted to do it over the last few months, proved to be unsuccessful. And while I do believe there is a possible future where it is a reasonable initiative, like for example, I want to also establish an alumni relations agency. I just don't think that's the biggest step. So I was just curious, like, how will you build upon what's already been done and hasn't, like I said earlier, hasn't given you the pudding where the proof is?
I can't answer that, or I'm allowed to.
If you wanted to raise your hand.
Oh, okay. Yeah, so as someone who has sat on the ISC committee with Clay, something that was really important is actually building an alumni outreach contact list. However, the efforts for this were scattered. I was not in charge of that. I was in charge of leading the largest branch of the student council, so my effort on this has not been my priority, but I promise as student council president, as someone who is committed to making sure that this campaign is built upon, is actually having alumni who will actually be willing to donate. This campaign will not exist if we do not have alumni's contact information. Actually partnering with the Alumni Association. That would be like unserious to assume that there's any future of a campaign if it's not actually partnering with the Alumni Association. Where would this money come from? Alumni.
Thank you. And just as a reminder, both of you guys have raised your hand 3 times each now, so you have 2 remaining responses for the rest of the Cavalier Daily questions. And then for the audience portion, you'll get another 5, if that makes sense. Perfect.
All right, thank you. Clay, you'll start answering this question. So our next question is, an issue that is often raised is the lack of awareness of student council goals and initiatives. How will you lead the organization in a way that increases student engagement?
Yeah, this is something I'm actually passionate about, being an FGLI student who has led FGLI orgs. These people aren't in the room where the decisions are made. They aren't in the room where they need to be to speak for themselves. Last year, while I was the Director of Financial Accessibility, as well as the Vice President of FLIP, which is the First and Middle Income Partnership EVA, I was asked to be on an advisory board, FGLI advisory board for Student Council. This no longer exists. It lasted for a year, this year not. Furthermore, at this time, Who's First also had an FGLI advisory board, no longer exists. The way I perceived these boards was giving individuals like me, individuals who work doubles on Sundays, an opportunity to speak for themselves, an opportunity to say what they need to say to seek the change they want, to use student self-governance that belongs to them. And to do this, I will be reinstating past advisory boards that are now defunct, such as the FGLI advisory board, which no longer exists, such as the Sustainability Advisory Board, which last year also existed, no longer is present. What these advisory boards do is they give people non-student council an opportunity to directly communicate what they want to see with us. As of right now, they're limited to emails and being bumped around through CC chains, which no one likes, or coming to our meetings and speaking during the public comment when everyone's listening, it's being reported on by the Cav Daily, and it's being written down by our history committee. That isn't always the most comfortable place to come speak your mind. And by instituting these advisory boards, making them a tradition and a lasting piece of what we do, we bring the people to the table that need it the most. So, thank you.
All right, thank you. Now, Jada, it's your turn to speak.
Yes, so I think something that's sad and unfortunate case is if you ask the average student here at UVA, what does student council do? To be honest, they would probably say, I don't know. They'll say something very specific that probably relates to them, but not anyone else. They'll say one specific thing, like, oh, I use Airbus, but have no idea what student council actually does. They have no idea about our lobbying efforts. They have no idea about all the change that we're actually advocating for day by day, tirelessly advocating for change here at this university. And I believe that needs to change, and that's why I proposed a unified student agenda. And this unified student agenda is not with idealistic goals, but it's partnering with student organizations and student on grounds on what are issues that we all care about. What is the intersection? There's so many different cultures, so many different backgrounds and identities here at the university. And what is the intersection of issues that we all care about? So if I were elected president, I would create a tangible document, a unified student agenda that would be plastered in the student council space, plastered on our student council website of issues that we would actually like to be addressed within 1 year in the term. Something that has tangible action steps and actionable items that we plan to hit on every single month through meetings, through calls, through actually meeting with UVA administration. This is a symbolic, but also real tangible change that when we're meeting with UVA administration, we can show them these are the things that students care about. But also this allows students to be involved in the lobbying aspects of student council. This allows them to know what's actually going on because they care about what student council is doing. And they're being impacted by it because they were included in the decision-making processes.
Thank you. Jada, you'll answer this next question first. There was recently a student athlete seat that was added to the representative body, and this sparked a lot of conversation on the topic of representative seats not being full in other schools. How do you plan on ensuring representative seats are full across the board?
Yeah, I think this partially has to do with the unified student agenda that I mentioned. A lot of students aren't aware of the work that student council does and the meaningful impact that it can have on various communities here on grounds. So if you have something like the unified student agenda, you'll be reaching out to various groups, just letting them know that, hey, there's a space for you to actually advocate. Letting them know about the seats that are unfilled by representatives. And I believe the student athlete seat is just the first step in making sure that every single community here feels represented and feel like they can partake in student self-governance in a way that isn't cliche or just the traditional way. As I mentioned, student self-governance is more than student council, UJC, or honor. It's students who are in Club Swim, it's students who are in BSA, and I believe through actually having lobbying efforts and advocacy efforts that are focused on things that impact all various communities will be really important. I think the first step in that is actually reaching out to those communities and having relationships with them. I feel like I've been really privileged to be a part of so many different communities here at UVA, and I think after talking to them, what they're looking for is just outreach. They want student council to reach out first, feel like they were actually welcoming and a space where they feel like they're actually going to be heard and listened to. Their issues are going to actually be addressed and not just say, okay, I hear you, but nothing changes.
Thank you. Now I'd like you to answer this question.
Ask you one more time, thank you very much.
Yeah. There was recently a student athlete seat added to the representative body, and this sparked a lot of conversation around the topic of representative seats not being full in other schools. How do you plan on ensuring representative seats are full across the board?
Yeah, so first I'd like to say that I definitely supported this. I think if someone wants representation, they should get it. My response to the reality is that these seats not being filled, that student self-governance is relatively dead. Ever since COVID, people quit interacting as much as they used to. No one has been coming to the base. I mean, in the past, this is really good turnout. But 20% of the students voted in the last election. And this is the kind of thing that's only on the decline. That's another reason why I wanted to run. No one should be going unopposed. There deserves to be competition. Competition breeds successful policies, initiatives, goals. Whoever wins, I have no doubt in my mind that the student body and the student council is in better hands because of what is happening here, because of what is happening in general. What I am planning to do is re-engage the student body with student self-governance as it exists. One thing that I plan on doing, like I mentioned earlier, is getting the student member board of visitors elected. As of right now, this member is appointed. There exists initiatives in the last 2 years that a faculty member named Walt Heineke in the school, he has led. You go online, you look up like House Bill 1467 in Virginia, you can read more about it. But what this was Walt Heineke was working to get the staff member of the Board of Visitors elected by the Senate member elected by the Senate faculty. This made it through the House, it made it through the Senate, it was vetoed by Youngkin 2 years in a row. With Youngkin on his way out, I believe that working alongside Heineke, we can get the student member elected, get our name on that bill alongside the faculty and a staff member, and achieve a future where student self-governance is no longer a cliche, no longer something we just hear in orientation, but something that we truly live, something that we are excited about. So by getting this member elected, working alongside pre-existing efforts, I believe that we can get these seats filled because people will be more excited about it.
Thank you. Jada, your response?
Yeah, I just really want to talk about the Board of Visitors. I think something that's really coincidental is me and Clay both have on our policy platform that we'd like for the Board of Visitors, Student Board of Visitors member to be elected, which I'm really happy that we have that, that shade of agreement. I think that's really important. But something I'd like to mention is I think that's just the first step. We want to talk about student self-governance. The students should actually have a say in the critical issues that affect every student member at this university. And we can tell that students are upset about so many issues that the Board of Visitors has made. So that's why I propose that the first step is getting the student member Board of Visitors elected, but then the second step is actually advocating and lobbying for student member Board of Visitors to have voting power. That's the end goal, and that's something that we should advocate for. And while it may seem unrealistic or idealistic right now, that's the long-term goal, that I think students should have a right to have a say in issues that affect them.
All right, thank you. Clay, your response?
I'm just curious, after reading your policy doc, because I love and respect you, if I remember correctly, I thought you were wanting the student member of the Board of Visitors to get voting power. I didn't read anything about it being elected. And so I was just curious, I totally agree. I think a long-term effort, a long-term hope is to get this member voting power. I think voting power is where it lies. But last I checked, perhaps I'm a little confused, but voting power is something we've all wanted forever. It's been an initiative for years. We have dailies written about it a million times, So I was just curious on that.
I guess I'll have to use my last, yeah.
It will be your last response, yes.
Yeah, okay, so I guess careful reading is just an essential part of a presidential candidate because in my policy platform, I noted the tagline was student member gets voting power, but in the description, where I think it's really important where I describe the how, is I say the first step is making sure that, the student member on the Board of Visitors is elected, but the long-term goal is to make sure that they have voting power, something that will reflect student needs and concerns, they'll actually have a say in the critical issues. So I hate that I had to use this as my last response, but I just think it's really important and just have integrity to make sure that my policy is reflected and, descriptions are really important.
Thank you so much.
All right, thank you. Just as a reminder, if any part of this debate has sparked your interest and any other questions you'd like to ask, you can ask any questions in our Google form linked in our bio, the Cavalier Daily. And so we're going to go on to the last set of 2 questions. So Clay, you will respond to this one first. Given the plethora of executive orders being passed since the start of this year, how would you lead Student Council to navigate concerns from student communities most affected on grounds?
Yeah. So what I'll say is this. Student Council's big tagline is we're not governing, we're bargaining. The reality is student self-governance has a leash attached to it. We exist as SSOs, as agency orgs, as organizations given the powers of the administration, but at the end of the day, we are still beneath them. We still have to ask them for funding, we have to email them, request meetings. And so with these executive orders, all we can do is find middle ground. All we can do is to bargain and make the most for these at-risk students, these students who need us to speak on behalf of them. This being said, we are also under pressure to follow these executive orders. They're quite literally laws. We can't defy them. And so that being said, it's important that we are knowledgeable and also in an internal way respectful of what they can do and what they can mean for the individuals we help support. One thing that I'm hoping to implement is grassroots liaisons, essentially under the coalition engagement director and the executive board. I want to give them a membership. This membership will then, either through application from these grassroots advocacy orgs, it will be comprised of individuals that are being brought to the table if they so wish. We're not going to force it upon the boards. Essentially giving them an opportunity to safely and in a way that is respectful to their goals communicate with us. Like I was saying, these executive orders don't create a safe environment for everybody, which is why they can't come to these subco meetings. Everything's being recorded and written down and posted in articles. And so by implementing these grassroots liaisons, collaborations with boards like QSU, BSA, FLIP, what we do is we bring them to the table in a safe way that allows us to bargain, allows them to speak for themselves in a way that keeps them safe. Yeah, thank you.
All right, thank you. And just to reiterate the question for you, Jada, given the plethora of executive orders being passed since the start of this year, how would you lead student council to navigate concerns from student communities most affected on ground zero?
Yes, I think this is something that was really important to me when I was drafting my policies and creating my policy platform. I understand that executive orders is someone who has felt impacted by it. Part of the different communities that I represent are facing so much fear of the unknown and understanding so many of the efforts to make this university inclusive of fear, whether that's going to be stripped away. And gratefully, Jim Ryan has expressed that he's going to continue the efforts to make sure that students continue to feel supported. But in my policy platform, I continue to build upon the resources that we already provide. So in my policy platform, you can find a policy that notes that for students who are legally at risk, providing them with a legal assistance fund. In order for them to feel supported, they actually need to seek legal advice and feel adequately supported, making sure they have the resources to do so and go seek help. Because right now, our student legal services lawyer only focuses on housing, traffic, and criminal cases. And while those are important, that leaves a part of the UVA community without assistance. That's one way I would like to address the executive orders. But another way is to have a policy dedicated to making sure that we work with the UVA administration to measure the success of the representation and belonging efforts, making sure communities like the Black community who have expressed concerns about so many initiatives that we rely on, making sure that we're holding the university accountable to not strip these away or even make changes to it that would negatively impact so many students who rely on these resources to feel supported, seen, and have a sense of community.
Thank you. We're going to move on to our last question from the Cavalier Daily portion. Julie will begin. What is the most significant challenge that the student council faces right now, and how would you work to address it if elected?
Yeah, I think something that we've kind of touched on throughout this debate is just the financial restrictions that student council has. There's so many ways that student council provides resources and support to students, and being under financial constraints can be really hard, especially when many students rely on these resources. So building upon the fundraising efforts would be really essential, as I mentioned, partnering with the Alumni Association to actually have outreach and access to donors who are willing to contribute to meaningful causes and the resources that we provide. But also just, making sure that the relationship with the CIOs are strong because we're providing money to them. And we do have financial constraints, and they're requesting large amounts of money to do the important work that they do, knowing that we can't give them all the money that they need. That's hard. And we need to continue to build on our fundraising efforts, build relationships, build more transparency. While we are currently dealing with our financial constraints, making sure that we're transparent with every student on grounds. Letting CIOs know that this is the status of your request. This is how much money we can offer in comparison to past years. And letting the students know just transparently where we are and making sure that students know about the status of what the student council is doing, regardless of the financial restraints as we continue to build upon the fundraising efforts.
Great, thank you. And Clay, to repeat the question one more time, what is the most significant challenge that the student council faces right now, and how would you work to address it if elected?
Yeah, and again, we agree, just funding. So it's more like a dialogue between two people doing the same thing than a debate. But what I'll say is, because I already touched on my desire to make a tradition of data collection to implement this across every single branch so that we can prove to alumni, so we can prove to administration why we need money. What I will say is, at the end of the day, you can only control what you're in charge of. And so, by implementing an alumni relations agency within student council, I believe that we can then set ourselves up for future success alongside these data reports, alongside these monthly audits. By collecting alumni data internally, we then prepare student council to ask for money later, the people who would care about it the most. This isn't being done right now. I mean, during our IEC meetings, we reached out to Alumni Hall. We tried to get data. They collected it. They just never gave it to us. They quite literally got what we asked for. We collaborated. They just didn't hand us what we asked. They didn't give us the name. They didn't give us the contacts, but they had it. So why are we going to rely on them when at the end of the day all we can do is control what we can? And so by creating an alumni relations agency internally, I believe we can do what we are capable of. Collect data internally, establish a tradition where we know who has been in student council, who has been at the table, and then once this is an established initiative going forward, we can expand it to the student body. But first, baby steps, we got to start internally, do what we can. So, thanks.
Great, thank you so much. We're now going to move to audience submitted questions, but before we do, I want to encourage everyone to check out both candidates' platforms and social media to get a better idea of what they stand for, since I know that we couldn't address everything here. The campaigns are ACE Vision and Writer to EPA. As a reminder, each candidate will get 2 minutes to answer each question. The count for responses has started over, so you both each get 5. There will be 4 audience questions. I apologize if you submitted a question and we can't answer it right now. Judah, you will start, followed by Clay, and Vaishnavi will again raise your hand when you have 30 seconds remaining. So this first question comes from a 4th-year college student. With both candidates having experience on the executive board within the same administration, in what ways will you be similar to previous admin, but also in what ways will you set yourself apart?
Yeah, something, as I mentioned, that I really appreciate and value about the current administration that I've had the privilege of working with is their commitment to the fundraising campaign. It was something that was talked about for a really long time, and I think they took the first steps. And while there was trial and error, and many parts of it was unsuccessful, I think it was a learning curve. And that's something that we can learn from and improve upon in the future of, yes, this works, and maybe we need to pivot and move forward. And I think that's something that I really value. But in terms of how I think we differ is, I think something that my platform really emphasizes is efficiency. We want to ensure that the resources that we provide, whether it's providing CIOs with money that they request, or the important resources like Airbus, the free store pantry, mutual aid, making sure that these are things that are efficient. As I mentioned, I do come from an FGLI background. Things like the Airbus skates, trying to utilize them this year when they were posted a month before I needed to leave for a spring break. That's inaccessible, and that's not accessible for so many low-income students. And so I think moving forward, efficiency is going to be core of what we do, just like community, making sure that any work that we do involves the community, reaching out, continuing to get survey insights that we utilize so much within cabinet to know, hey, how far in advance do you actually need these dates? How far in advance would you like to know when these resources will be available? Reaching out to the community will be important. So I would say if there's anything new, it's we will be adding a more efficient layer to meet needs for students.
Great, thank you. And just to read the question, this is coming from a 4th-year college student. With both candidates having experience on the executive board within the same administration, in what ways will you be similar to previous admin, but also in what ways will you set yourself apart?
I think something that's similar between us, which I actually really admire and respect about the current administration, is the diversity and experience. What I am studying is history and drama, Mike's studying commerce, Princess studying global public health, going to med school. And at the end of the day, we bring diverse perspectives that aren't here. They aren't represented in student council. They haven't been here, but they were here with our current administration. And I will say confidently that we made strides that haven't been made in the past. In a way that makes me say I am proud to be on this administration, and I'm grateful to have the possibility of building upon that work. This all being said, we do have differences. as everyone does. Looks like me and Jada doing with the same things. But I will say our biggest difference is, well, one is as an individual, I'm very loud. I will speak my mind. I'm not afraid to. That being said, if there's an issue, there's no hesitation on my part or on behalf of the voters that I will say it. I will make it known. I'm not going to waste time. Secondly, virtually all of our policies are tangible. They are able to be accomplished within a year. We're only in this position for a year, whoever wins. And so why have a policy that can't be accomplished in that amount of time? Furthermore, many of my hopeful initiatives exist based upon pilot programs that I've worked on in the past. Like I said, and I said before, it's kind of a silly saying, but the proof's in the pudding. Like, we've been doing this, there's nothing that's going to stop me from keeping doing it. How the heck do you say it? Anyways. Yeah. So that's the biggest difference, I'd say, is we have tangible initiatives that are short-term with big ambitions beyond them. So it's not like I'm nearsighted, or what, I don't have glasses, I don't actually know what that word means, but you get what I'm saying. But the reality is, we're focusing on the first step, not the last step, because that's what you gotta do to make change in the only a limited year we have, so, thanks.
Great, thank you. So for the next question, Clay, you'll begin. This is coming from a second-year college student. In 2023, Student Council was gifted $750,000 as discretionary spending with a promise of a $5 million endowment. Since then, there have been no bylaws passed within the Endowment Advisory Council, according to my research on your website, so it's the second-year college student, to deal with the $5 million endowment. While the discretionary funds have been referred to as an endowment by many within your organization, what happened to the real endowment, and why do members refer to discretionary spending as an endowment?
I wouldn't call it an endowment, I'd call it money to be used by the services that need the most. I wouldn't call funding that President Ryan has given us twice now an endowment by any means. I think that's a cop-out that shuts down our future hopes for an actual endowment. An endowment is something that can be invested and be utilized over time. These are funds that are finite, that we have to use now to extend our hopes for an endowment later. This being said, the fight for an endowment is never going to die until we get it. That's why the Interim Endowment Committee exists. That's why we've been on this committee fighting for the future of an endowment. I'm honestly confused by the question, respectfully, but yeah. We don't have an endowment yet. We've never gotten one, but it is a possible future. A future that we've been fighting for, and the both of us will continue, I have no doubt in my mind, building on the current work, building on the initiatives that we've already said. I'm not going to say it again, but yeah, and the endowment's not dead. It'll be here in due time, I believe. Just like future collaboration, data reports, auditing our internal spending, making it more efficient. And then, like I keep saying, get that proof in the pudding so the admin, so the donors can believe us, and then give us the money we ask for. So, endowment's not here yet, but it will be.
Great, thank you. And Jane, I'll repeat the question for you. Yeah. In 2023, Student Council was gifted $750,000 as discretionary spending with a promise of a $5 million endowment. Since then, there have been no bylaws passed within the Endowment Advisory Council, according to my research on your website, to deal with the $5 million endowment, while the discretionary funds have been referred to as an endowment by many within your organization. What happened to the real endowment, and why do members refer to discretionary spending as an endowment?
Yeah, so that was a really long question, but thank you to anyone who asked it. But yeah, so that gift was not an endowment, that was from the president's office to continue to provide essential resources like we do now, the free store pantry, mutual aid, accommodations, access funds, so many essential resources that student council provides, that students rely on, as mentioned previously. That's not an endowment, but with that question, I mean, I would like to kind of spin it to kind of focus on, making sure that we actually take steps, as mentioned previously, to actually have an endowment. The goal is a $5.6 million endowment to ensure the future success and growth of student council to continue to meet the evolving needs of the student body. And with a $5.6 million endowment, it would allow us to withdraw 4% annually, to have $225,000 to help support students and meet their needs, meet their resources. And I think a really big part of it will be data-driven advocacy, something that has happened within cabinet and staff, but building on that as we work towards an endowment, making sure that we are continuing to meet evolving needs. Student council is meant to evolve. Student council is meant to change because student needs change. It's not going to look the same every single year. And if I were to be elected, I'm sure student needs are going to look different in a month from now, 2 months from now. Just like the executive orders, the political climate affects things and resources for students on grounds. So making sure that we have that type of support, sustainable support. So as the needs continue to evolve, we have the resources to support students.
Clay, you wanted to respond?
Yeah, I don't really have to respond. I thought she gave a great answer, but I realized neither of us answered a part of that question, which was why do we internally refer to it as an endowment? And I think that's just a misconception. I think that in a way, it's just a misunderstanding of what this money is and what it means. And furthermore, respectfully, it's been called an endowment by the Cavalier Daily. And so whenever students are reading this, what are they going to think? They're going to think it's an endowment. And so internally, even if we aren't calling it that, students think it is. And then students think it is, donors think it is. So how are we going to ask for one if it's perceived that we already have it? That's kind of my response. So respectfully, I love you all.
Great, thank you. Just a reminder, we have 2 questions remaining. Clay, you have 4 chances to respond left, and Jada, you still have all 5. So Jada, we'll start with you for this next question. This comes from an anonymous student. Students have seen the effects of a deteriorating relationship between some students and student organizations such as UTS and university administrators. What steps will you take to further navigate the relationship between the administrations and the student body over the next school year?
Yeah, I think this is a really important question, and I'm happy that Renee's asked about to address this. As mentioned, student self-governance is key. And a lot of students, when we think about student self-governance, it's just spoken as something symbolic. Students don't understand the importance that every single organization has and making their voice seen, making sure their community is seen. And with the guide situation, I think it was a very eye-opening situation for all students that student self-governance is something that can be stripped away. And I think it's really important for student council to be an ally, to continue to support organizations that do such critical work in making sure that students have a space to actually share the true history of UVA, have a space to actually share their experiences at this university, because student experience is not the same, it's not equal. We all come here with different backgrounds and experiences, but that's what makes UVA unique and beautiful, is that there's such a diverse group of students here that contribute something meaningful to it. And I think moving forward, when it comes to addressing this with UVA administration, it is kind of showing and reflecting that students care to have their voices heard and seen. Students care to actually have a say, and working with UVA administration to show that when you strip this away, you're taking away something essential for the community, something essential for so many communities. And that's what a lot of students are attracted to UVA because of this idea of student self-governance. And I think being able to relate to that, if they feel that it's being stripped away, that's hindering the community more than anything.
Great, thank you. To reiterate the question from anonymous, students have seen the effects of a deteriorating relationship between some students and student organizations, such as UTS and university administrators. What steps will you take to further navigate the relationship between the administration and the student body over the next school year?
And what I'll say first is I'm a history major, so this one hurt bad. It really, really hurt my heart to see this happen. And it circles back to my belief that student self-governance is limited. There is a leash attached. Being an agency or being a special status organization is seen as a privilege, but I personally believe it to be an obstacle as well. And this is being proven with UGS. I have no doubt in my mind it'll be proven in multiple other ways going forward. It's a reality that we can't necessarily overcome in a year, but we can because we can work together to make the most of it. As I personally experienced, just being an executive board member, I'm sure Valentina's had more communication with other SSOs and agency than I have. It doesn't feel like we work alongside each other as much as we should. I believe our missions are parallel in nature, and they should also be unified in reality. But it feels like we're distanced in that regard. Furthermore, I believe that, let me back up real quick. Sorry. Sorry. That was kind of funny. This leash, what it does is it prevents us from making the most of our circumstances. from making the most of our funding, from getting in the rooms we need to be in, having the meetings we want to have. And at the end of the day, UGS, tragic, history major broke my heart. And all we can do is stand alongside them and fight for a brighter tomorrow. That's all we can do. That's all we're going to do for now. Again, tangible steps, baby steps, one step at a time. This is what we're going to do now. But in the future, we hope to regain UGS's status and ensure and strengthen that of every other organization on grounds. Yeah.
Great,
Thanks.
thank you. Jada, your response.
Yeah, I think the situation with guys just also is a reflection of the importance of community work and community partnerships. And making sure that when it comes to issues that impact us all, just like, the threat to student self-governance, making sure that we already feel a sense of community, so when it comes to addressing issues like this, it's easier. And I think it would be really important to have an organization such as Guides be a part of a unified student agenda where they're contributing to the next steps of within the next year, things that they feel will be important to be addressed. And so I think in terms of tangible steps, actually reaching out to them, continuing to make sure that they're a part of the conversation, they don't feel like excluded, because as I mentioned, like the historical aspect of BVA is essential and their contributions is meaningful. And I think just as, guys with special status organization, just how student council is, what happened to them is just, a reflection of how easy it is for power to be stripped away, allyship, and community is more important than ever, and making sure that we contribute to it.
Sorry, that's all you had. Clay, your response.
Yeah, again, we agree. I hope we could be co-presidents. I think it's all really easy. But yeah, just to second that, to be honest, but I want to emphasize, this isn't even a matter of debate again. I think this is so important to reiterate. I think and I know that student council and every other SSO in Stewart should be collaborating. Right now we're in different rooms. We should be in the same ones more often than we already are. This would reinforce and protect orgs like Guides, like Student Council, like Cavalier Daily, like UJC, like Honor. Some are more at risk than others, like Guides, unfortunately, rest in peace. But I believe by working alongside each other, like we both mentioned, a stronger, more unified future can be achieved. So, motion to have us be co-presidents. Anyone second? Just kidding, that's not possible.
Great, thank you. We're going to move on to our last question. Please answer first. This is coming from a third-year engineering student. What is something that you have accomplished in the endowment initiative, given that President Ryan's renewed application was a collective effort?
Yeah, I realized my mic was turned off, but good thing I'm all up, guys. So. What I have accomplished is collecting the SAS report, that's what we call it internally. That's a support and access services data compilation that we did. Alongside Valentina, who was communicating with the admin who granted us the money, and then Finn, our beautiful and lovely data science director, I was able to compile data reports for each and every one of my agencies for this last year, realizing that we have supported around 1,100 students just this last year, and that's just what was documented, right? With data report, with data compilation not being a tradition, not being something that has been set in stone, I have no doubt in my mind there's way more than this. So what I have done for the endowment initiative for this committee was give us that flexibility, give us that leeway by creating the SAS report, collecting this data, advocating for a $500,000 President's Office fund on top of what we fortunately got a few years ago, $750K, to prolong this fight, to give us a chance to keep doing it, because we can't keep doing it without the money. And so that's what I've been able to do personally, is successfully create the SAS report, present it, well, I didn't present it, but my lovely friends did. They presented to President Ryan, we were able to get $500,000 more. So, on my resume, I put raised $500,000. So.
Great, thank you. And just to reiterate, this is coming from a third-year engineering student. What is something you have accomplished in the endowment initiative, given that President Ryan's renewed allocation was a collective effort?
Yeah, so unlike Clay, I was brought into the endowment committee a bit later. I think it just has to do with just the fact of the role that Chief of Cabinet, our focus is on lobbying, creating moving concepts into real actual impact. And so just the difference of just providing resources to lobbying and policy making, those look a lot different. So a lot of my time is just focused on, making sure that the lobbying grid is still running, that, we're making progress on a lot of our initiatives. So a lot of my work on the endowment committee was just, giving advice, reaching out to alum, gathering alumni contacts, but a lot of my work was tied up into cabinet and making sure that, you know, we continue to, like, a lot of the resources that you see now, free STI testing, free menstrual products in dorms, et cetera, and so on. That was a lot of just like cabinet work, but I think moving forward when it comes to the endowment, I do see a bigger role in that in terms of actually implementing sponsorship strategies. Over the summer, I was a philanthropic consultant, so my entire role was working with large donors, considering if they were considering giving grants to different organizations. So using that experience, using that you know, research, and actually implementing that to make sure that we have a relationship with donors. So if there's any question of how you get it done, well, I have experience doing it. So I look forward to actually using those skills and that experience and implement that into the fundraising committee moving forward.
Great, thank you. So that's all the questions we have for today. It is now time to move on to closing statements. Each of you will have 3 minutes to make your closing statement. Vaishnavi will let you know when you have 30 seconds remaining. Jada, you will go first.